Hello everyone, and welcome to a virtual site tour of Trench 2 of the Silchester Roman town Bathhouse. Trench 2 is my trench. This is Amanda speaking, and we opened it in 2018, came back to it in 2019, and we will now complete its excavation in, well, it will be 2021 now. This screencast is going to show you two models of Trench 2, and the models have been created using photogrammetry. So we took many photographs of the archaeology of Trench 2 at the end of the 2019 season and then stitched them together using a piece of software which has created a number of 3D models. And these 3D models we can then manipulate in post-excavation. We can zoom in onto different areas of the site and get different views of it. So you can actually often see things that you wouldn't or may not have noticed during the course of the excavation. So it's an extremely useful post-excavation tool. So I'm going to set the scene a little bit, and I'm just going to switch on the laser pointer. There we go. And let's just set the scene. So Silchester's Bathhouse, one of the earliest buildings to be constructed in the Roman town, and a complex construction. Excavated by the Edwardians at the start of the 20th century, and we have then gone back, returned, and re-excavated their trenches, reinterpreted what they'd found, and also opened up some new areas of our own. So this is north up here to the right, and you would have come in off one of the east-west Roman town streets, come into the bathhouse. It had a fairly spectacular looking entrance with columns and the like, and this area was where the latrines were, and we excavated those in 2018. From there you would come in to the exercise yard, and that would be approximately here, and the exercise yard consisted of a central area known as a peristyle, and this is one corner of the peristyle, and it would have come out something like that. And then wrapped around the peristyle was the ambulatory, so like a passageway that just came right the way around the external area of the peristyle. So this is where you would work up a sweat prior to using the baths. Continuing southwards, this area here, bounded by the walls here, so you've got a wall here, dog legs in. This area is the apoditarium, or the changing room. So you've worked up your sweat, and this is where you would come in, get undressed, and then head deeper into the bath complex. And we then have a series of rooms. You have the cold pools here, the plunge baths, the frigidarium. You then go into the warm rooms, the suite of warm rooms, or the tepidaria, and from there into the caldaria, or the hot rooms. So this is the south end of the bathhouse. Okay, what were the research aims then of Trench 2? As you know, each trench that you open needs its own set of very specific research aims, which will then feed in to the overall project aims. Well, Trench 2 is this L-shaped trench here, and as such it straddles both the interior of the bathhouse here and the exterior of the bathhouse here. And the aim of this trench is twofold. Firstly, it's to highlight the phasing and development of the bathhouse building. So we get a little insight here into a little keyhole, if you like, into the archaeology of the building construction, to see if we can understand the phasing. But we can also link whatever is happening outside with whatever is happening inside, and the phases of the bathhouse may well be reflected by different activities happening outside. Also key to understanding the phasing of the bathhouse from Trench 2 is this here, which is the main external east wall of the bathhouse. And if you look closely at it, you can see that it actually consists of many different types of stone, and it is very obviously not of one build. And we believe the earliest build is down here, and this is the later build that was added on. So you can learn a great deal about the phasing of the bathhouse by close examination of the remains of the standing walls. The second research aim, is to examine and excavate in great detail the deposits outside the bathhouse. Now this is virgin territory. The Edwardians did not excavate here at all. And the likelihood is that we will get some excellent material culture, which might give us clues as to what sorts of things were going on in the bathhouse. Why would we have material culture out here? Well, firstly, it's the obvious area for rubbish and debris to be thrown, so from inside to outside, and you might expect deposits building up against the external wall, and deposits which would be full then of items which might tell you some of the activities that were happening internally. It's also an area where drains from inside the bathhouse were draining. So I don't know if you can see, there's a little drain here capped with tiles, roof tiles in fact, and it runs down here and out into this external area. There's another drain running here, and there's another one running here. So these were bringing water out from the bathhouse, and could well contain either artifacts, hairpins, brooches, rings, and if you've got original drain deposits, you might also be able to take some samples, which would help with perhaps understanding the local environment of the baths. So getting an understanding of the phasing of the bathhouse, and secondly of the lives of the people who were living in the bathhouse, those are the research aims of Trench 2. Before I start the model, just a couple of other things to point out. All the little holes into the archaeology are all later interventions. Now, a later intervention could be as late as the Edwardians. It could be 12th century, which is when we think the bathhouse was finally demolished. But they could also be Roman. So later Roman robbing of earlier Roman buildings also took place. So you get lots of little cuts into the archaeology, which of course makes interpreting it quite difficult. However, we created these three cuts here, this one here, this one here, and this one here. These are three trenches that we decided to open up as little keyholes into the archaeology, so we could get an idea of how deep these external deposits were. So that's what those are. This is a robber trench, and it's a Roman robber trench. So we believe originally there was an earlier wall of the bathhouse here, and it was robbed out in the later Roman period. This here is an early wall. If you can see, it's a very substantial wall foundation, and we actually think that is the original external wall of the bathhouse. So originally the bathhouse ran along here, and then in the later Roman period they extended the bathhouse and built this outer wall here. So it's a complex picture, and it really is a case of getting your eye in. Okay, I'm now just going to start the model, and this just allows us to peer in a little bit into some of these areas and some of the rooms that you can see. This is allowing us, I think, firstly, to look at the different constructions of the external wall that you can see there, the different types of tiles and flints and greenstone that was being used. We're also zooming in on some of the external deposits. You can see they're made up of a mix of this white mortar, gravels and cobbling, so typical yard surfaces really. And now a little view as we go into the interior of the bathhouse. Here we go, all the way along. Let me just put the laser on here. Okay, and back into the model. Let's take a closer look at that. So I'm just going to set it going, and I'll put on the laser. So here we are, we're actually looking out to the east, which is going that way. And here you can see quite clearly the external wall and the later addition to that there. Zooming in, that's the very early wall foundation, and you can see this peristyle wall foundation is actually overlying this early foundation here. Nice view of the drain with the roof tiles which are capping it. The Edwardians actually excavated part of them, that's why some of them are missing. There's this very early wall here. These are floor tiles, still in situ, Roman floor tiles. This was an opus signinum floor surface, crushed brick and mortar. And then we're hopping over the external wall here into the outside part of our trench and just whizzing the model around. And there you go. So you can see these deliberate holes that we dug into the archaeology just to get a sense of the deposits. And what they were just interleaving and overlapping surfaces, external yard surfaces pretty much, with drains cut through them. Coming all the way down, look at the external area of the wall there. Down into this part, as I said, this is probably an earlier wall that's been robbed out. And now looking back, these deposits here are all about the 1st century. We're down into about the 1st century AD, so the beginnings of the life of the bathhouse. Very rubbly area here. This is the demolition from the 12th century demolition of the bathhouse. It contains some 12th century pottery. And here we are just whizzing around again. But I think it shows you quite clearly the different kinds of deposits we are dealing with at the bathhouse. And with that, I'm going to end our virtual tour. I very much hope that some of you will be actually digging here with me in 2021.